Hey, it's Alyssa, back with yet another Animal Crossing Halloween speed paint. In this particular speed paint video, I'm combining two things that go together pretty well, I think, Animal Crossing and The Nightmare Before Christmas. I have two different pieces to show you. One is just a quick piece of Stitches as Oogie Boogie, and the other is a more complicated scene of the classic Nightmare Before Christmas hill with Jack and Sally, and also Lucky playing the role of Zero. So let's get right into it. I didn't want to do the intro song for this video because this video is already quite long as it is. I think it'll clock in around 20 minutes or so. So get right into the art and get right into the Halloween goodness here. This first speed paint of Stitches goes by very quickly because I just failed to record a lot of it, and it was going to be its own standalone video, but because I didn't get all the footage, and since it also matches the Nightmare Before Christmas theme of the video, I thought I'd just put it in at the start here. And at first I had this mental idea of doing the inking kind of like a Tim Burton drawing. So people think of really heavy, scratchy kinds of lines for Tim Burton just because of the look of Nightmare Before Christmas. But when I've seen some of his actual artwork, he did a little book forever ago called like The Melancholy Tale of Oyster Boy or something like that. I used to own it because I was really into Tim Burton stuff back when I was like 14, 15. I had that book and the illustrations are very simple. It almost looks like they were drawn with like a ballpoint pen and then colored in with watercolor. I'll put up an example on the screen. So my first inkling was to do something with that kind of style, but because of the sketch underneath, it was a little more complicated of a design, and I thought it just needed like more solid lines to flesh it out. So I went for almost like a Disney villain kind of look to it with the color scheme and the slightly thicker, more defined tapered lines instead of the more loosey-goosey ballpoint lines with watercolor. I think I made the right choice because I think this design looks more like an animated Disney villain than it does a like a simple Tim Burton illustration or something like that. But I was still inspired by the kind of sketchy look in terms of how I drew the eyes and adding the extra stitches, 2 stitches on his arms to make him look more like Oogie Boogie. I thought adding the bugs would be like a step too far and making it just a little bit too creepy. I didn't want to go full horror for Stitches, I just wanted him to be a little bit creepy. So I thought having stuffing pop out of him at his seams would be a little bit more of an appropriate spooky thing to add to him as opposed to having like a mouthful of bugs or something like that. Though for next year's Halloween, it might be kind of fun to revisit this idea, but do them actual like horror style. Because I don't really draw like creepy stuff or horror stuff, so it might be a fun challenge for me to break out of my comfort zone of making everything as cute as possible and try to lean more into the horror style and maybe draw inspiration from other horror artists that I follow on social media. So maybe I'll do that next year and try to make some creepy, like really creepy Oogie Boogie art of Stitches and revisit this idea again next year. But for now, this is the Disney villain, slightly creepy but still pretty darn cute Oogie Boogie Stitches that I designed, and overall I think he came out really cute. I like the lighting on him and I feel like he popped straight out of an animated movie, so I was really pleased with the final results. Let me know what you guys think of this speed paint in the comments below. But I also did one more speed paint that luckily has much more footage, and that's coming up next. So for this piece, I wanted to recreate the Pumpkin Hill image. This was actually inspired by, I was having a conversation with my friend Dan about like, what other stuff should I be doing for YouTube, since like I wanted to branch out from Animal Crossing while still keeping the vibe of Animal Crossing videos. Because I really like the audience that I've built here that are all fans of Animal Crossing and cute stuff like it. So I was working on some ideas for Nintendo adjacent stuff I want to do in the future, and he suggested that I do crossover Animal Crossing things, so like Animal Crossing meets Pokemon or, you know, things like that. And one of the ideas for Halloween was Animal Crossing meets Nightmare Before Christmas. And I thought this was genius, so I was like, I'm definitely doing that. So I started sketching this, and it took me like over the span of a couple weeks, I like picked at this piece by piece and finally finished it in time to make the video. But in that time while I was working on this, I found out that this wasn't a completely original idea. Of course, nothing new under the sun, but some people had gotten really creative on the Animal Crossing subreddit. I'll put up some examples on the screen, and I'll link to the Reddit posts in the description if you want to go check out the posts and leave them a cool comment or something like that. There was one post that somebody had recreated the hill shot that I'm doing here. They recreated it in Animal Crossing, which I thought was adorable. And there was also this really cute art of Jack and Sally where they made Sally Isabel, which I thought was a really fun idea. At this point, I had already started to ink this piece, so I didn't change course on who I had made Jack and Sally. Obviously, Jack was going to be Jack. But Sally, I was at first I was maybe it should be Stitches, Stitches is doing Sally cosplay. And then I thought Stitches as Oogie Boogie was a much better idea, so I shelved that. And I was kind of trying to pick a girl character that I thought might, fit Sally. And I think it was Dan or me, I can't remember who came up with this idea, but maybe it was Dan because he has better ideas than I do. But the idea that Celeste likes to stargaze, so she would already want to be on top of the hill gazing at the moon. And the Animal Crossing interpretation of this, since there's not a lot of romance in Animal Crossing, the Animal Crossing interpretation of this picture could be Jack is just taking her up to the best viewing spot to see the sky and see the stars and see the big moon. And I knew I had to do Lucky as 0. At the very tail end of working on this, I decided to shift him down in the piece just to make the composition work a little bit better. In the original reference I was drawing from, there's no 0 there, it's just a bunch of gravestones. And I didn't want to do gravestones even though there are gravestones in Animal Crossing. I just wanted this to be a super happy and joyful kind of take on Halloween to kind of counterbalance creepier stuff. Oogie Boogie was a little bit creepier and Brutus was a little creepier. So I wanted to do a little bit of a lighthearted, fun, happy Halloween piece. So I didn't want to have any tombstones or anything like that. Just pumpkins and cosplay and cute stuff like that. So I put 0 in place of where the tombstones would be in this composition. And I started inking with the same brush that I used on Oogie Boogie. I neglected to mention it's a Procreate default brush that I've been obsessed with lately. It's called Dry Ink. It's right under inking. I like that it's super smooth and easy to control, but it also has just a slight amount of texture to it, but it's just solid enough that from a distance it looks like really crisp, solid lines. But it's got just enough personality to it in the form of texture that it's the perfect inking brush in my opinion, so I've been really loving using this particular brush for basically everything I do lately. It's really cool. And later in the video, I experiment with creating my own brushes for the triangle pattern on the ground. I wasn't sure how I was going to tackle that at first. My first inkling was to look up maybe a triangle pattern, repeat pattern, and then overlay that on the hill and use the warp tool to make it warp to the curves of the hill. And then I thought that might look really weird, so I looked up how to make custom brushes on Procreate. I had done this once or twice before to make a custom stamp of a sparkle or something like that for a Steven Universe piece I made forever ago. But I forgot how to do it, so I googled it, and it turns out it's pretty simple to make your own Procreate brushes. So I just made one that's 3 triangles together, and I made one that's 1 triangle that's just a stamp. And I did 2 different variations of the 3 triangle brush. There's one where it's just, if you apply even pressure, it's all the same size stamp over and over and over of the 3 triangles. And then I realized I wanted a little bit of a perspective effect. I didn't make Jack and Sally as small as they technically should be because I wanted them to be visible. So I made them bigger, but I still wanted that impression that the top of the hill is further away than the base of the hill, so I wanted the triangles to get a little bit smaller at the top. So I modified the brush and messed with the settings so that the more pressure you apply, the bigger the brush gets. So I could lightly apply pressure to a stream of these stamps of triangles and then make it, harder pressure toward the bottom, and it created this nice effect of the sizes going up as they should to make things look a little bit closer to you. So it took a little bit of fiddling with, and it's not totally perfect, but I think the effect is good enough for this piece. I think it's kind of convincing that it's Animal Crossing soil with the triangles on it. And if I figure out how to do this, I'll put the triangle brushes in a zip file that you can download from me on Gumroad. I'll make it a pay whatever you want thing, including free. So if you just want free brushes, you can, but if you want a tip, you can as well. I'll do something like that. I'll figure out how to do that and link that in the description below if you don't want to make your own brushes. But it's also very easy to make your own brushes, so I would advise learning how to do it. There's all kinds of tutorials on YouTube of how to create your own Procreate brushes, and it's a lot easier than you would think it is. But yeah, overall I was pretty satisfied with how my little custom brushes came out and the overall look and feel of it. I also wanted to make the colors a little bit more bright, a little bit more Animal Crossing-y, less black and gray and monotone like the movie is. It sets that kind of really nice dark Halloween mood. I thought Animal Crossing, it fit to match the Halloween promotional colors. Like in the trailer, it's very much like purple and orange it's a much more cheerful kind of Halloween aesthetic. So I thought I'd lean into purples, oranges, and yellows for this piece. And then I tint the purples a little bit more bluish at the end when I'm messing with overlay layers. But I wanted it to have a much happier, brighter, more cheerful feeling to it, while still keeping true to the whole Nightmare Before Christmas homage that I'm going for here. But let's for a minute talk about Nightmare Before Christmas, like as a thing. It's so weird that Nightmare Before Christmas became like a sensation among like a subset, like a subculture of kids at my school for a while, like the mall goths. And then it became like overrated and like uncool to be into Nightmare Before Christmas because there was kids that were dressed in like head to toe Jack Skellington stuff and made it like part of their identity. But the older I get, the more I realize like it's okay to like popular things, because a lot of the times popular things are popular for a reason. Like you're not a cooler person just because you dislike mainstream stuff, you know? So I've learned to just like what I like, and if it's overrated or oversaturated or, you know, too popular, like who cares? I still like it. And I still love Nightmare Before Christmas. I don't care how many people have weird tattoos of Jack Skellington. Like, I can't make the movie not good, okay? It's not my fault the movie is good. It's an enjoyable movie. It has great music. It's got beautiful stop motion that's hand done. The characters are really memorable. Every song gets stuck in your head. It's just a great movie. And I would argue that it's like almost better to watch at Christmas time than it is at Halloween, but it's the most genius holiday movie ever made because it's appropriate for two different holidays. And it's the perfect Christmas movie in my opinion, because I think the problem with a lot of Christmas movies, especially like Hallmark Christmas movies and like really schlocky straight to DVD Christmas movies, they're all sentimental with no actual soul. And this movie is very sweet, and it has a lot of Christmas tropes in it, and it has some like mushier, gushier moments, but it always just feels genuinely sweet and heartfelt, and it never goes into the like too sweet territory. Like it's never like, ugh, puke, I don't want to watch this again, it's too sappy for me. It never really goes that direction. So it's one of those Christmas movies that I can watch every year without getting sick of. So Nightmare Before Christmas like ticks all those boxes for me, and it's also like the perfect Halloween movie. It's the perfect Halloween movie because, wow, it's the perfect holiday movie for two different holidays. How iconic is that? It's the perfect Halloween movie because it's got equal amounts of like creepy stuff, like the clown who rips off his face, and like some of the character designs are a little disturbing. The like snake eating the Christmas tree is equal parts funny and creepy. Like it's got the creepiness, but it's also got the cute Halloween aesthetic. It's got very iconic characters that make for excellent costumes. Like it's just like, it ticks every good Halloween movie box. It's got the monster movie aesthetic to it. It's appreciated by fans of horror. It's appreciated by fans of animation. It's appreciated by people who just love fun. Like, it's just a great movie. And you know what? I support all those mall goths who got tattoos of Jack Skellington. Like, I relate. I am your ally. I am with you guys. I get it. Like, the movie is good and I understand it, you know? And I think people think maybe Nightmare Before Christmas isn't a good movie because Tim Burton's associated with it. And to be fair, he hasn't made a good movie since Big Fish. So, like, I get it. But, you know, Tim Burton's name may be on the DVD cover, but he's not the director of the movie. Henry Selick is, and Henry Selick directed James and the Giant Peach and Coraline, and all the artists that created the stop motion puppets and all the singers and actors are really the reason that that movie is so good. It almost has nothing to do with Tim Burton, why that movie is so good. Aside from creating the initial character concept art, Tim Burton barely has anything to do with Nightmare Before Christmas, so I don't know why he gets all the credit for it. It's not fair to Henry Selick, you know? So for people to dismiss The Nightmare Before Christmas as being overrated or not that good because of the association of it being a Tim Burton product isn't fair to the rest of the people who made the movie what it is, or even the director of the movie who should have gotten the credit for Nightmare Before Christmas. In short, Nightmare Before Christmas is a fantastic movie. It is not overrated. It is appropriately rated because it is a phenomenal movie. It's a great piece of art. It is still good year after year after year, and it's the perfect Halloween movie and the perfect Christmas movie. Like, can you make a better movie than that? I don't think so. And it's not too long. In an era where every movie that comes out feels the need to be 3.5 hours long when they could have just made it an hour and a half long, it's a movie that's only like an hour and change. It's the perfect length for an animated movie. People are pushing the lengths of these movies, and we could use more movies that are like an hour, hour and 10 minutes, you know? Tell your story, beginning, middle, end, and get out. We don't need any filler. It's all killer, no filler in Nightmare Before Christmas. Never a dull moment in that movie. It's all fantastic. Getting back to talking about the piece briefly here at the end, I'm pretty satisfied with how it came out. I think it captured the feeling I was going for, which was a very obvious homage to this movie I love, capturing the kind of spirit of it, and also capturing the spirit of Halloween and blending it with the aesthetic of Animal Crossing, making a fun crossover piece that has this really fun sense of celebrating Halloween in a fun and friendly way. I love the faces on the little pumpkins. I like my little Zero Lucky. I like how Jack and Sally, Jack and Celeste came out on the top of the hill. And overall, it's a fun piece that I really enjoyed working on. And I'm happy I got to do it in time for this year's Halloween and didn't postpone it and procrastinate it and push it all the way back to next year's Halloween, you know? Next year, maybe I'll go a little bit creepier. Let me know if you'd be interested in seeing me attempt to do like more horror type of art anytime in the future, whether it's, you know, before Halloween or for next Halloween, if I should do something creepy or if I should try to do a blend of creepy and cute like I've been doing this year, that kind of thing. Let me know in the comments below. Also, let me know what are your thoughts on The Nightmare Before Christmas and this speed paint, as well as the Oogie Boogie speed paint, and what other kinds of things you would like to see from me in the future on this channel. So thank you guys so much for watching this video. I will see you all in next week's video. Have a terrific, safe, and happy Halloween. Peace out.